Sunday Spotlight is brought to you by Bay Area Children's Theater.
Hi, everyone. It's me, Khalia Davis, the Artistic Director of Bay Area Children's Theater. Welcome to another episode of Sunday Spotlight. This is the show that shines a spotlight on really cool people using their art to create social and positive change in their industry and community. Today's guest is famed comedian and voiceover artist Aparna Nancherla. Here are 3 things you need to know about Aparna.
Aparna's favorite food is lasagna. She gets lost very easily. Aparna actually wanted to be a dog when she grew up.
Hi, Aparna.
Hi, Khalia. Great to see you.
So good to see you too. Welcome to Sunday Spotlight. We're just gonna dive right in. I asked all of my guests the same question. Who did you see, or what did you see when you were growing up as a kid that inspired you to pursue this career in the arts?
What did I see when I was a kid? I was very inspired by the Muppets on Sesame Street. I would say I'm still inspired by them. I just love everything they do. I love how they move. I love how they talk. I love that they really feel their feelings and they get really excited about things. So I would say those were my first inspirations as performers. I know there are people sometimes, behind the Muppets. I don't know if I'm allowed to say that because I don't know if that's
sure, yeah.
But yeah, that's a whole world that I'm very enthusiastic about and inspired by. But I think I loved cartoons as a kid. I loved really silly, goofy stuff. And I didn't know I wanted to be a comedian until later in life, but I was very creative early on. I read a lot of books. I wrote a lot of stories. I wrote a lot of stories about animals, a lot of horses and dogs. I remember once I wrote a really long story about a dog who was a pirate named Caspian.
Whoa.
And his adventures. But yeah, so I think I always knew I wanted to do something where I could use my imagination and just create things out of my own head, because I was also a really shy kid. So I didn't, I wasn't really social. I wasn't out there playing soccer on the field. I was kind of on the side watching everyone else coming up with ideas.
Yeah, that's great. And that's actually a really cool thing that we would love to talk a little bit more about, is the fact that you do identify as someone who's a bit more shy, maybe a little bit more reserved. Sometimes people like to refer to these individuals as introverts. And you do a lot of performing and entertaining, especially as a comedian. So what made you consider using stand-up as a form of getting your voice out there as a funny person?
Yeah, I think what first drew me to stand up was that I didn't really have to, read a book about it or take a class. I could just kind of start writing my ideas down, and then I could go to an open mic, which is, a performance space where you can just sign up for a couple minutes and then just try out your ideas. So I think I liked that I could do it on my own terms, and also no one would tell me oh, you're doing it wrong. That's a nice thing about stand-up. You can sort of do it however you want to. I think when I first started, actually, someone told me, you perform stand-up like someone who's never watched stand-up before, which seems like maybe an insult, but they meant it in a cool way. They meant you do it your own way. You're pretty unique. So I think that's always nice to hear as an artist. But I think it was something about the fact I could just do it as myself. I didn't have to become a character or be some other person that I wasn't. I could just say I'm Aparna and these are my ideas, and now you guys get to hear them and hopefully you'll laugh.
That's wonderful. For kids out there that might be excited about pursuing comedy or stand-up, but also might be feeling a little nervous or shy about doing it in front of other people, what are some things that either maybe someone has shared with you that's helped you feel confident out there, or what do you tell yourself to get you ready to go and tell those jokes?
Yeah, that's a great question because I still get nervous and I've been doing it for a long time. So first of all, totally normal to be nervous. Probably weirder if you're not nervous at all because it is scary sometimes to stand in front of a group of people. But I would say, just little things. Maybe you could take a class if you're not sure where to start, or read a book about it, or even just workshop some jokes in front of people that you're more comfortable around, like your family or a couple friends who you feel like get your sense of humor. I think it's also, if you've been wanting to psych yourself up to do it, just have like a few positive sentences you can tell yourself, like, you're going to have a good time. Like, even if it feels kind of unfamiliar or scary, like just have fun. Because I think if you're having fun, the audience is more likely to have fun. And even if you're nervous on the inside, sometimes the audience can't tell. Like, it feels like you're really scared. But sometimes I've been really scared and the audience just afterward, they'll say like, oh, you seem so cool and collected the whole time. So you just never know, how much your fear is showing. A lot of times if you are scared, but you're still excited to be there, the audience will just see that you're excited to be there. Like the fear will kind of turn into excitement once you get on stage. So it's totally normal to have the jitters beforehand, and don't make that think you're not cut out to be a performer or something.
I love that. And what I also appreciate is you representing the audience and how they're there to just support you, and they want to see you succeed. They want to laugh. They want to enjoy the show. So when you get out there and you're feeling a little bit of those nerves, just know that the people out there in the audience, they're wanting to root for you to do your absolute best. So just give it to them, which I think is so important and so wonderful. So speaking of young people, some of your work, because your work actually spans multi-generations, so many different ways in which we can support you and your artistry, but a number of ways is through your voiceover work, which has been featured in shows like The Great North and Mira Royal Detective on Disney Junior. What keeps you excited about doing work that's specifically for young audiences and families?
I think what I love about doing stuff that's for kids or for younger folks, I think I generally feel like a kid at heart a lot of the time, and I do think kids just have this sense of wonder and possibility about everything, because a lot of times they're experiencing things in the world for the first time, and there's something really cool about the first time you experience something. It's like you're really coming to it fresh. Like you have no expectations, you've never experienced it before. So there's a lot of joy and possibility in it. And I think I really like that that's there in a lot of children's programming. And I also think I have a voice that sounds kind of younger. So I get the opportunity to play characters that are younger. And I feel like I'm lucky in that I do get to be a kid again and just, be really silly and goofy and not worry about the things adults worry about sometimes, which is, seeming really serious and wanting to be taken very seriously.
That's so true. It's so great to sometimes embrace your inner kid. And it's really awesome when it's also connected to your career and what you can do for your job. You can show up and you can actually say, I'm going to be youthful today. I'm going to explore what it's like to actually be a kid in this moment. That's really awesome. Something else that I wanted to talk a little bit about is your writing. You are also a writer. What are some things that inspire you to get that pen and paper going?
I think as a writer, the nice thing is you can really be inspired by anything. Like a lot of times when people imagine writers, they think of someone sitting in a room at their desk, just kind of sitting, tapping their pen to their forehead, just trying to think of ideas. But I always think of my best ideas when I go for a walk or when I have a conversation with a friend, just something where it gets your mind kind of going and you bounce around just different thoughts. The nice thing about, I think, being an artist at all is like everything can turn into inspiration, and you don't have to, it's good to be disciplined and maybe sit down and write for half an hour every day or an hour or whatever you feel like. But I think it's nice in that no matter what or who you are as an artist, the best way to get inspiration is kind of get out there and live your life. And you're going to get a lot of ideas just by being a person in the world and your own specific way that you see the world.
Yes, get out there, live your best life, and it'll hopefully help you come up with brilliant new creative ideas and turn them into stories that lots and lots of us can read. We are coming to the close a little bit, so I have one more question for you. You do so much in the entertainment industry, from writing, producing, acting. What was one or maybe two or three or any number of times when you felt like the work that you were doing, especially who you are and the community you represent, was making a difference for the people who were experiencing it?
Well, I think I'm lucky in that a lot of times I've gotten just like nice notes or emails from people who maybe share my background or my personality, and they'll say that they saw me performing comedy, and they'll say, I just feel like I saw someone like me represented on screen, and I don't think I see a lot of examples of that. Or sometimes with newer comedians, they'll say, you were one of the first people I saw perform comedy that made me think, oh, I can maybe try this too, or I can do this too. And it's almost strange to hear that sometimes, because you don't think about inspiring other people when you just do something that you want to do and are passionate about. But I think it can be really humbling, but also a really good feeling to think, oh, someone saw me do it, and then it made them think that they could do it themselves. And that's kind of really cool to inspire someone else.
Yes, it is. And truly, your work continues to inspire so many of us. And I'm so grateful that you were able to stop by this episode of Sunday Spotlight. But wait, kids, we're not done. It is now time for your creative craft. This creative craft is brought to you by my friend Aparna, who has done lots and lots of joke telling. And she is going to lead us in some ways in which we can set up and share some of our favorite jokes. Aparna, take it away.
Thank you. So I am just going to tell you some basic joke telling strategies. I have a few favorite kids jokes that I've brought in my pocket today. The first thing I would say about telling a joke is you have to be excited to tell it. If you're not excited to tell it, people are not going to be as excited to hear it. And that doesn't necessarily mean you have to be really big or energetic or wild or loud. It just means you have to be, inside. You have to be like, I'm really into this joke. I think it's funny, and I bet they're going to think it's funny too. Like, here's a classic joke I heard when I was a kid that I loved. And it goes, this is the setup, and the setup is the beginning of the joke. It's not really the funny part, but it's the part where you're telling people that maybe a joke is coming. So the beginning part goes, what do you call Batman and Robin after they get smushed by a bulldozer? So that's the beginning. And maybe, you want to let the audience guess. Maybe they have some ideas. So Khalia, do you have any ideas of what you might call Batman and Robin after they get smushed by a bulldozer?
A squished team?
Squish team, that's close. That's close. I mean, that is one way to describe them, but I would call them Flat Man and Ribbon. So that part, Flat Man and Ribbon, and Khalia laughed, so joke a success. That's the punchline. So that's the part that's the giveaway. And you want to give it a little room. You want to chew on it a little, let the audience enjoy it as it comes to them. Because usually a joke doesn't give itself away. Like Khalia had a guess for what the answer was, but she didn't guess the exact answer. So usually the joke ending is a little bit of a surprise for the audience. So that's always what kind of makes something funnier, is when the audience isn't expecting it. Like, here's another classic joke, and this one, Khalia, I'll need a little bit more of your participation.
Okay.
Another way to do a good job with the joke is to commit to it or really sell it, which just means you're really into it the whole way through, and you really believe in what's happening in the joke. So here's a classic knock knock joke. Knock knock.
Who's there?
Boo.
Boo-hoo.
Oh, don't cry. I'm your friend.
Oh,
Yeah,
I get it.
Even though it's a joke, I thought Khalia was crying because she said boo-hoo. And because I believe she was crying, it makes it funnier because it's actually a joke and it's not, no one's actually upset. So it's good to sell a joke or commit to it. That is one other way to make a joke land. And I think those are all my joke telling techniques. Khalia, do you have any questions for telling a joke yourself?
When you want to tell a joke and you really want to make sure that that punchline lands, what are some fun ways that you can set the joke up to maybe trick the audience into thinking it's going to go one way, but really you land it a totally different way?
Well, sometimes you can kind of, tell it in a very subtle way, which means you can say it like you're not even going to tell a joke in the beginning, like you're just saying something serious. And then at the end, you can flip it and say something completely the opposite. And then the audience will think, oh my gosh, I didn't even see that coming. And they will laugh just from the surprise of that you completely tricked them. So I guess you're right. Every joke is just a little magic trick of words.
All right, everybody. I can't wait to hear all of these amazing jokes that you now know how to tell, thanks to our friend Aparna. We're so happy that you were able to stop by Sunday Spotlight. You've gotten your craft. Now it's time to go get creative. Until next time, keep shining, everybody. Bye.